All right, there. We're just getting ready to go live again on the radio show. So stand by as we get ready. It's another in our upgrades on getting more interactive. So hopefully you all will join in, ask questions, and be part of the show. Counting down. You could also tune in, by the way, if you want to listen to the show live any day of the week. We're on iHeartRadio. All you have to do is go to WWNN 1470 and you can tune in there. Also on our website, by the way, at automaticlandlord.com. And hello, South Florida. Hello to all of our real estate fans all across America. Welcome to another daily edition of the Real Estate Show, South Florida's #1 program about real estate, America's longest running daily radio show, brought to you each and every weekday from 8 until 8:30. That's Eastern Time. Make the connection if you're in the East Coast, West Coast. We're now broadcast across coast to coast. If you have the iHeartRadio app, you can listen to us on iHeartRadio. Just go to WWNN 1470 and you'll see Money Talk Radio, and just tune in from 8 to 8:30 and you'll hear the Real Estate Show. If you are on the internet, you can drop in on our website at automaticlandlord.com. That's automaticlandlord.com, and you can listen to us right there. So lots of different ways to listen to our show each day live as we broadcast the radio show. We also broadcast locally here in South Florida on FM 96.9, FM 95.3, and also at 103.9 on the FM dial. And then once again on the AM dial at 1470, which is where we started this radio show, believe it or not, 21 years ago. So here's what we got planned for you today. We got a great show. As you know, our Thursdays is all about the money. And when it comes to being all about the money, we talk about everything real estate related, talking about the money. And that can happen a lot of different ways, whether it be about the financing, the pricing, and so forth. Today, and we've been talking this whole week, sort of still following along the latest updates on the coronavirus. More importantly, especially in today's show, since we are talking about the money, is talking a little bit more about the CARES Act. And what's important understanding on the CARES Act is what's covered and what's not covered in that in the CARES Act. So I want to talk a little bit about that, and then I want to talk to you about something that we call the automatic landlord debt solution. Now, this is something that we've had for some time, and a number of people have taken advantage of it. A number of people use this. Well, we don't have to be in a pandemic or in a crisis to do it, because what this program has done, and this is really, it's a very comprehensive package that we put together, called the Automatic Landlord Debt Solution. And what it does is it will help you to pay off your mortgage in literally 1/2 to 1/3 the time. And that's simply using this same budget that you have. What we're going to talk about is how to reallocate things. I think you'd all agree out there that maybe our budgets aren't the most efficient, that we probably drop and or waste money along the way that could really come along. And I just imagine, especially, and what I thought about when I saw this whole pandemic unfold on the financial side, I started to say, you know what? This is really a time to rediscuss the Automatic Landlord Debt Solution. And what it's done is save hundreds of millions of dollars in interest payments for people, literally across the country. This is something that's available to anyone across the country. This will save enormous interest payments. You may or may not know that when you take out a mortgage, and let's just use a $100,000 mortgage as an example, and you take that mortgage out for 30 years, over the course of that 30 years, you're going to pay out somewhere between 2 to 3 times the original amount that you borrowed. So if you borrowed $100,000, you're going to likely pay back somewhere between $250,000 and $300,000, depending on the interest rates. And even in a low interest rate environment, that's the case. So imagine if you could cut your mortgage in half. In essence, you're buying a second house, the one that you bought, that the bank lent you the money for, and then a second one that you're buying for the bank in terms of interest payments over the course of the loan. And then I get this, the first reaction I get from some people, well, who keeps a mortgage for 30 years anymore? And that's true. The majority of people don't keep their mortgage for over 30 years, which really makes the problem worse, because what's really happening is that you're resetting the clock every 5 to 7 years. So much so that even the banks are smart and onto that they don't even base the 30-year mortgage on the 30-year bond anymore. They base it on the 10-year bond, because they know that that's long enough, that the majority of their mortgages will either be refinanced, they'll be paid off, the property will be sold. One way or another, it's not going to happen. So like I said, this provides a way, an easy, and it's online, which is nice. And now we have it up in the cloud. So it's an online tool that's going to minimize both the time and the interest paid on all debt. And that's the cool thing. This started out as a program to help, what's the biggest debt? The mortgage. And we were using this in order to show people how to pay the mortgage off. And this was a great focus of mine in the mortgage business, where I spent over 21 years showing people how to lower their interest payments paid over time. I could show folks, and this is going back into the 1990s, when I would show what the amount of interest was saved if you were to take a 30-year mortgage and convert it to a 15-year mortgage. When the interest rates dropped, and we could keep the same payment but put it on a 15-year term. The amount where it was in the tens of thousands, and in many cases with the bigger mortgages, hundreds of thousands. So think about this. And now today, and that back then, back in the 90s, when there really was an average $100,000 property, today, where the median home price is north of $250,000, generally speaking, I think the last number that we discussed on one of our shows was about $275,000, which was the median home price across the country. So as you can imagine, 2 to 3 times that in terms of the total payments over the life is a huge savings. I mean, imagine the possibilities. With finances, we often are very nearsighted. As I said, I think we look at our finances many times very day to day, maybe month to month, trying to make it to the end of the month with paychecks. And inevitably, and this is a great, huge example, we stumble into these unavoidable pitfalls. And some of these things happen. No one could have avoided the coronavirus. No one could have avoided basically, I was listening to it, was it a $23 trillion budget, which is what the United States economy is. And so, we have now done a stimulus package a 10% of what the budget is. So that, puts all these things sort of into perspective. But the blurriness of the way we handle our finances impacts the quality of our decisions. And to make matters worse, we can look back on a lot of our missteps. We look back to the month before, man, if I had half the money that I wasted in the savings account, I wouldn't even have to worry about retirement. That's how bad I think it is. Over the years, if you look at the things that we buy that we probably shouldn't have bought, and imagine if you had the ability to type into the computer, I'm thinking of buying this. Hey, Sully, it's nice to see you out there. Imagine if we had the opportunity to plug in a few numbers, what the product costs. It might be a jet ski, it might be a car, a boat, or it might be a house or some other big expense that you might be buying. And then you would calculate out that you could either put the money there, get on some monthly payment, buying this whatever, and you might find out that, well, I can afford that. I can spare that in my budget. But when the program then shows you the opportunity cost of that money, you could find out that maybe isn't as big. It's more of a want than it is a need. We know that's most of the time. And hey, Rich, how are you doing out there? By the way, for our audio listeners, we are broadcasting this show live on Facebook as well. We did this on Monday. We tried to do it on Wednesday. Ran into some technical difficulties, a really complicated one. I found out that Facebook, you can't have your phone horizontal. It won't record. So we're learning along the way. But by the way, this is one more of the what I call the collateral consequences that are actually going to help us out. It is moving people more forward faster in technology between the work remote and now us taking the radio show live on video. And as we get better, we'll be able to. In fact, today I was on with Laurel Langmeyer's her technical team, and they were really helpful, helping me out, explaining how to create a Zoom meeting where I can have multiple people on and interviewed on video and then go live on Facebook with that. So stay tuned. We're going to increase the technology here in leaps and bounds every single day. But so I wanted to lay the foundation here. I'm going to come back and talk a little bit more about the debt shredder, how we're going to literally get rid of debt faster in a time like this where we're really needing to pay attention to our finances. Go back in, as we talked a couple weeks ago. First of all, you got to take a snapshot of where you are and look at your budget items. There's a lot of things in there that you could probably cut some fat and trim it right there. Now imagine if I took that money, if it saves me 2 to 3 times in my mortgage, imagine if I started applying that towards principal reduction. But then we start looking at, now that we've improved that product so that it's any debt, we can figure out which debt we ought to be hammering out first, get rid of that stuff first, and then what ends up happening is a snowball effect. So we're going to go ahead and take a quick break. Hear a few words from our sponsors. Don't touch that dial. We got a lot more for you, including some tips also on the CARES Act, which is the big stimulus bill. So this is Eric Woolner for The Real Estate Show. I will be right back. So for those of you out there in Facebook land, the music is coming and they're playing the commercials. So maybe that's the next thing I got to figure out is how I can bring that, unless I were to play it loud over the speakers here so that you guys could hear that during the radio show. But hey, maybe I'm sparing you also the commercials. So hey, Rich, thanks for joining in. Say hi to Angela. Erica, of course I had to say hi to you. What happened here? Son of a gun. There's always a technology thing. Laptop just died even though I thought it was charged. if I can. Angela says hi. Say hi, Angela. Live from the South Wind Studios in Boca Raton. Who wants a real estate cup, huh? There we go. So we're lining up some really neat interviews, which is why I was saying before when we started the break, the ability to do this video, I think is going to be a lot of fun, especially being able to have two people on the screen and be able to see them live while we're doing this. Okay, they're now running the music and we're getting ready to come back. Did you say anyone was on? Okay. If I'm talking to myself, it's because I'm not. Anyway, welcome back. For those of you just joining us, you are listening to The Real Estate Show, South Florida's #1 program about real estate and America's longest running daily radio show all about the topic of real estate. And each day of the week, we theme our program based on a specific area of real estate. We start the week on our Mondays on a mission by laying out a topic, and that topic ends up being the theme for the rest of the week. But we approach that theme from different angles. And on Tuesdays, we start to dig into the tools, the tips, and techniques of what we are talking about on our theme. So we break it down to the nitty-gritty, give you the tools so that you can take what we're talking about here on the air. I like to look at the Real Estate Show as sort of a seminar a day, something that we can teach you, something that you can take out there and then apply it into your own real estate life, whether it be your own home or your 21st rental property. It really doesn't matter. For last week we were talking about all the things that the National Association of Realtors was talking and suggesting for real estate agents, and I thought sharing it here for all of our investors, for homeowners, because there's a lot of questions going on right now in this corona environment where we've got this shelter in place, and yet there's people that need to sell their home. There's people that want to buy a home. It's kind of hard, and if you were to listen to the news, which I have tried not to listen to very much of the news. I try to get a little condensed summary at the beginning of each day, and then a little bit at the end of each day, and then that's it. Because otherwise, you can get drawn into this quagmire of constant statistics and prognosis and guesses. And of course, not to mention the doom and the gloom that you see, and thankfully today there's a little bit less of the politicism of everything, but I am already starting to hear that come back, and so it's a crazy environment that we need to really be focused and stay concentrated on what's important for us. So. Number one, I want to just kind of wrap up in the first half of the program. I talked about the automatic landlord debt solution, and this is a really cool strategy which we've been using for years in helping investors. Investors get helped out tremendously because imagine I said that I can show you how to pay off your mortgage in 1/2 to 1/3 of the time, simply by redirecting how you're making your payments. And if you have credit cards, this is even better because I can help you wipe out your credit cards. And now, more than ever, this is really important. But the key thing there is if you're an investor and you have multiple streams of income, imagine if you have multiple streams coming in that you could target and then wipe out this debt even faster. I've had people do it in less than a third of the time. Can you imagine taking your 30-year mortgage and paying it off in less than 10 years? I think our record, and there was powerful cash flow coming in here, but we paid off a mortgage in 3.5 years just because we redirected and then directed that flow to come in. So that's what's possible. We're going to talk more about that in the coming week, and I'm going to give you specific details on how, if you would like to do what I call a pro forma. And what I can show you is that you'll fill out a form, you'll give us what your income and what your expenses are, all of them. And then I will plug it into our system and show how long it would take for your mortgage to be paid off. And you will be absolutely shocked. And I think you'll like it a lot. So we'll talk more about that. Now I want to switch gears a little bit today because I wanted to talk a little bit about, yesterday we talked a little bit about the CARES Act and what was in it for you. We talked a lot about, interestingly, what they call it, and think about it, okay? And I want you to really think about this because the $1,200 checks, the stimulus checks that everybody's supposed to be getting in the mailbox. Now, before you go and celebrate, and in fact, before you even go out and check the mailbox, the first checks aren't supposed to go out until approximately April the 9th. But they also said that a good chunk of people will not get their checks until September. So that's a full 5 months later. Now, I don't know whether $1,200 is going to be enough to make all of your payments this month, let alone if you had to wait 5 months. And the whole idea here, I think, was a short-term bridge to help out. But understand, the name of that check is called your rebate check. That means that they're giving you your money back. And I want that to set the tone for everything else. Because before everyone goes out and celebrates thinking that the government is just distributing money, think of it this way. They're giving a little bit of your money back. This is about 1/4 of the stimulus package. The stimulus package, which is $2.2 trillion, $500 million, about 1/4, a little bit less than 1/4, is in these benefits to individuals. And a portion of that is this $1,200. So if you'll see, it's what it represents is a Band-Aid for some people. If you didn't file taxes in 2018 or 19, don't expect a check in the mail. They're working on right now clarifying things, and I know that this has been a high priority now because there's a lot of discussion. They're trying to figure out for people who are not required to make a payment, i.e. people on Social Security don't have to file taxes. Certain people who work but fall underneath the level of income required to file taxes aren't going to file them. And so do they get lost in the cracks? Now, the other thing, and so, by the way, this includes employed and self-employed people because, the big thing, unemployment checks are starting to go out. And I think today at lunchtime, I heard that over 6.6 million people had filed already for unemployment. They're expecting it to reach 10 million before the end of the week. And so the people who were on some sort of a payroll and were paying for their payroll taxes, including unemployment tax, they can file for unemployment. But what about the self-employed person who doesn't pay unemployment taxes? They're in a different situation. There's no unemployment for them to file, and there's none of that because the employment benefits, and let me get into one of those, for example. Employer payroll tax payments. Employers and self-employed individuals can defer payment of the employer share of Social Security taxes. So good news for the employers, they don't have to send it in. For the employees are still subject to that, right? The self-employed, which usually pays the employer and the employee side, gets to not pay the employer side. So they get a 50% discount on that. That is it starts, such payments are to be paid over the following 2 years, with half due December 31st, 2020, and the other half. That means that they're going to not pay it, they're going to defer it. Remember, I said employers and self-employed individuals may defer payment of the employer share. All of this is really, the government did this stimulus package really as a loan in almost every sense of the word. The Paycheck Protection Program, the PPP as they like to call it, these are loans with possible forgiveness. Now here's an exception. The Small Business Administration is going to provide $349 million in loans to eligible recipients, including small businesses, self-employed individuals, and nonprofits. The loan proceeds may be used for payroll, for rent, for mortgage payments, and utility costs, to the extent such funds are so used within the 8-week period beginning the date that the loan is established. Such amounts may be forgiven without the recognition of cancellation of indebtedness of income. Translation there, for those of you who weren't aware, whenever a bank forgives a debt, or in fact, even if an individual forgives your debt, the IRS considers that as income. The forgiveness of debt is the same thing as if you got the cash and paid it off, debt extinguished. So they're saying that this is not going to count if they forgive the loan. They're going to give you the loan, and if they forgive it, if you comply with the terms, and there's certain things that have to be done, the amount forgiven is determined by reference to the number of employees retained. And that's the purpose of that one, is to retain employees. Now, maybe you're the only employee. Hopefully you'll see how you can do that. And in the coming weeks, we're going to show you, in fact, we're just trying to give you the details, but we're going to come out and we're going to show you the step-by-step, including providing forms and all of the instructions. So you're definitely going to want to stay with us on that one. The employee retention tax credits. Eligible employers are going to be allowed a refundable payroll tax credit equal to 50% of the qualified wages paid or incurred between March 13th, 2 weeks ago, and December 31st of this year. So this contemplates only this economy or economic downturn lasting till, well, you could say, well, only, wait a minute, are they already talking that this could take till December 31st of 2020? Yeah, I think so. The employer's operations, if they were fully or partially suspended because of the shutdown due to the coronavirus, and so that's the first one. I'm going to get into more of this stuff. I just wanted to talk about the self-employed and the small business. But for those of you on the air, I can hear this in my ear. The music is in, which means that my time is up and I'm on my way out. As usual, I like to end the program with, if you're out there, make sure that you drive safe, stay safe, and make it a great day. Thanks very much. So the music went out and we wrapped up the show. I appreciate you guys, all of you listening and watching, and we'll continue as we do this experiment, walking all the way through. So that's it for today. Thanks again. See you soon.